All right. It says I'm live, and I think I messed all the intros up. It says I'm live, and I think I messed all the intros up. I hope y'all don't hear that. It says I'm live. I think I messed. Maybe I got that fixed. All right. So, good evening, everybody. Anthony is at ECF, and I got a little something I was going to cover today. I'm going to wait just a few minutes before we get into it. I'm kind of by myself, so I hope I don't mess things up too bad. Want to say hello to everybody just right quick. Fear Yahweh, Nez Lover, ELOAA Ministries, Dave Mounds, and OK I Serve Too. Welcome. Good to see y'all, and thank y'all for coming. Some of y'all that I see in the chat, y'all heard this before, and I just think that other people should hear it because I see a lot of this still going on today. And I know it's not no kind of uh, pagan day or heathen day coming up anytime soon that I'm aware of. Of course, they try to make one every month. But I want to go over some of the things that to be on the lookout for. And I'm just going to cover a couple of the pagan days or heathen days in this stream, but there's many more. They just shoving it down our throat every time we go to town or turn on the TV or anything like that. So I'm not going to be able to. Michael Penner, welcome. I'm not going to be able to see the chat for a little while. I'm trying something new here, and I'm by myself, so we're going to try to get into it. Many of you've heard this. Let me see if I do this right. All right. All right. Many of you've heard this particular verse before, and you've heard how it has to do with Xmas and stuff like that. It's Jeremiah 10, 1 through 5. It says, Hear the word which the Lord speaks to you, O house of Israel. Thus says the Lord, Do not learn the way of the Gentiles. Do not be dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the Gentiles are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are futile. For one cuts a tree from the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They decorate it with silver and gold. They fasten it with nails and hammers, so that it will not topple. They are upright like a palm tree, and they cannot speak. They must be carried, because they cannot go by themselves. Do not be afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, nor can they do any good. The thing is, when we when we see this, they can't do evil. That is true. The Christmas trees and stuff, they can't do evil, but it is an evil thing to follow that pagan day, that Gentile way. But it's not exactly Xmas that I wanted to get into in this particular stream. It's actually the one that follows it, the one that is represented at the same time, or the one that is celebrated at the same time or around the same time as Passover, and that would be Easter. But first, I want to read from, make sure I'm getting this right, the book of Jeremiah. Again, this is Jeremiah 44, verses 15 through 19. Jeremiah says, Then all the men who knew that their wives had burned incense to other gods, with all the women who stood by, a great multitude, and all the people who dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that you have spoken to us in the name of the Lord, we will not listen to you, but we will certainly do whatever has gone out of our own mouth, to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and pour out drink offerings to her, as we have done. we and our fathers, our kings and our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then we had plenty of food, were well off, and saw no trouble. But since we stopped burning incense to the Queen of Heaven, the pouring out drink offerings to her, we have lacked everything and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. The women also said, and when we burned incense to the Queen of Heaven and poured out drink offerings to her, did we make cakes for her to worship her and pour out drink offerings to her without our husband's permission? Now, we see that, well, at least what I'm seeing is in verse 15 here, it's talking about that all the men who knew their wives had burned incense to other gods. Why ain't the men standing up and telling their wives don't do these things? Um, I see right there that that is sort of a feminized society where they basically put the women in control. And then down here in verse 19, it's basically, it says the women also said, and when we burned incense to the Queen of Heaven and poured out drink offerings to her, basically it's the women that's making the calls here. We don't see the men standing up and saying, no, don't put up that Christmas tree or don't worship this Queen of Heaven. Now, I want to read one more verse before I go into who this Queen of Heaven is. It's Jeremiah 7:17 and 18. It says, do you not see what they do in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem? The children gather wood, the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead dough to make cakes for the Queen of Heaven. And they pour out drink offerings to other gods that they may provoke me to anger. And that me is capitalized, and that's the word of Yah. That's Yah speaking to Jeremiah here. The Queen of Heaven, according to Wikipedia, and this might take me a little while. There is a lot to read about this, but I'm not going to read it all. I want to point out a few things about it, though. The Queen of Heaven, it says, is a title given to the Virgin Mary by Christians, mainly of the Catholic Church, and to a lesser extent in Anglican, Anglicanism, Lutheranism, and Eastern Orthodoxy. The title has long been a tradition included in prayers and dev, devo, devotional literature. I don't know why I can't talk tonight. And seen in Western art in the subject of the coronation of the Virgin from the High Middle Ages, long before it was given a formal definition status by the Church. A Catholic teaching on this subject expressed in the papal in whatever that word is, issued by Pope Pius the looks like 12th in 1954. It states that Mary is called Queen of Heaven because her son Jesus Christ is the King of Israel and the heavenly King of the universe. Indeed, the Davidic tradition of Israel recognized the mother of the king as the Queen Mother of Israel. So we see that this is the Catholic deity. Uh, maybe, this might take me a few minutes to. Okay, I'm gonna read this here. Get my glasses. Maybe I can see a little better. Maybe that'll help. It says in the Hebrew Bible, some Davidic kings had their court, whatever that word is, great lady. It's what it means. Who was often their mother and held great powers as his advisor and an advocate to him. In 1 Kings 2:20, Solomon said to his mother Bathsheba, seated on a throne at his right, make your request, mother, for I will not refuse you. William G. Most sees here a sort of type of Mary. I don't know if I exactly agree there. I have to look into that a little more. So then the New Testament, the title has several biblical sources. At the Annunciation, I think that's what that says. The archangel Gabriel announces that Jesus will be great and will be called Son of the Most High, and the Lord God will give to him the throne of his father David. He will rule over the house of Jacob forever, and his reign will be without end. Luke 1:32. The biblical precedent ancient ancient Israel is that the mother of the king becomes the queen mother. Mary's queenship is a share in Jesus's kingship, and I disagree. I'm not saying that the Catholics and the people that worship this Queen of Heaven disagree. They actually think that. I'm just saying I don't think the scriptures say that Mary is going to share in Jesus's kingship unless it's talking about how we all will, that we will all, uh, if we follow his ways, if we are found to be righteous at our judgment, we'll all inherit the kingdom. So historical practices. The last line here is what I wanted to point out. It says, or the last paragraph rather, it says the word queen is common during and after the 6th century. Hymns of the 11th and 13th centuries addressed to Mary as queen. Hail, Holy Queen, hail, Queen of Heaven, the Dominican Rosary, and the Franciscan crown, as well as numerous invocations in Mary's litany, celebrate her queenship. For centuries, she has been invoked as the Queen of Heaven. And when we just read in where is it? Jeremiah, they're told not to make raisin cakes to this Queen of Heaven and not to worship this Queen of Heaven, burn incense to this Queen of Heaven, not to do that. But the women said, "Yeah, we're going to do it anyway because we like it." And the men said, "Okay." Uh, I think that was all about, yeah, that was all about this one. Now, this other deity, some people may not have heard of Inanna, but she's also known as Ishtar. But I wanted to read a little bit about who Ishtar is. It says Inanna is the ancient Mesopotamian goddess of love, war, and fertility. She is also associated with beauty, sex, divine law, and political power. She was known by the Akkadian Empire, Babylonians, and Assyrians as Ishtar. And I don't know that word, what that word is. Her primary title was the Queen of Heaven, and she was the patron goddess of the Inanna Temple in the city of Uruk, which was her early main cult center. In archaic Uruk, she was worshipped in three forms: uh, morning Inannu, evening Inannu, and princely Inannu. The former two, hold on one second. The former two reflections reflecting the phrases of the planet Venus, whatever a planet is, which she was associated with. You know, that brings up another thing I wanted to point out too when we get to it, and maybe I'll remember. But it says her most prominent symbols include the lion of the eight-pointed star. Her husband was the god uh, Dumuzid. Remember this name, and later known as Tammuz, and whatever that word is, just to call our personal attendant, was the goddess Ninishbar, who later became uh, conflated with the male deities Librat and Haskell. Now I don't know if that's actually names of Osiris. I'm assuming that it is though. except something's backwards here. How this goddess has become known as male deity. That seems to be backwards from the story, but I don't know. I have to check into that later. Let's see. Inanna was worshipped in summer at least as early as the Uruk period, 4000 BC to 31 BC, and her cultic activity was relatively localized before the conquest of Sargon the Akkad. During the post-Sargonic era, she became one of the most widely venerated deities in the Sumerian pantheon, with temples across Mesopotamia. The cult of Inanna Ishtar, which may have been associated with the variety of sexual rites, was continued by the East Semitic speaking peoples, Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians, who who succeeded and absorbed the Sumerians in the region. Maybe we've read enough about her, but I wanted to point this out, and I didn't notice it earlier, but I just kind of ran through this. But this particular deity is where we get the name Easter from, the Ishtar, and it comes from the Epic of Gilgamesh, who is also known as Nimrod, who was the builder of the Tower of Babel. So, should we listen to Jeremiah chapter 44, or should we listen to these women who's burning raisin cakes to him? Jeremiah 19:11 through 13. It says, and say to them, thus says the Lord of hosts, even so I will break this people and this city as one breaks a potter's vessel, which cannot be made whole again. And they shall bury them in Tophet till there is no place to bury. Thus I will do to this place, says the Lord, and to its inhabitants, and make this city like Tophet. And the houses of Jerusalem and the houses of the kings of Judah shall be defiled like the place of Tophet, because of all the houses on whose roofs they have burned incense to all the hosts of heaven and poured out drink offerings to other gods. So this doesn't sound like Yah is too happy about pouring out drink offerings to other gods and burning incense and doing all these other things, cutting trees from the forest and stuff. Now, one thing about Nanu, and I didn't see this a while ago. I might need to go back to this, but it has something to do with this next deity, this Milcom. Maybe it's towards the bottom. Uh, Sorry, I'm having to kind of read through this as it goes. There's a lot to it. Maybe it's right here. As you can see, it's a lot to this. And I've read all this before, so I'm just kind of familiar with it. And I was just going, that's the origins and myths. There it is. The myth of Inanna and the Halupa tree. Let me make sure I'm not skipping anything important. Okay, it says the myth of Inanna and the Hubula tree, found in the preamble of the Epic of Gilgamesh, Enkidu, and the Netherworld, centers around a young Inannu. Not yet. No, this ain't it either. Okay, should have just went on to the bottom anyway. The poem Inannu prefers the farmer begins with a rather playful conversation between Inannu and Uta, who incrementally reveal to her that it is time for her to marry. She is courted by a farmer named Ink Inkimdu and a shepherd named Demuzid. We need to remember who this Demuzid is. At first, Inanna prefers the farmer, but Uta, the Demuzid, Uma, can't read, Uda and Demuzid gradually persuade her that Demuzid is the better choice for a husband, arguing that for every gift the farmer can give to her, the shepherd can give her something even better. In the end, Ananu marries Demuzid, the shepherd, and the farmer reconciles their differences, offering each other gifts. Samuel Noah Kramer compares the myth of the later biblical story of Cain and Abel because both myths enter around a farmer and a shepherd competing, competing for divine favor, and in both stories, the deity is questioned, ultimately chooses the shepherd. I hadn't really thought about it that way. Well, we talked about, well, where's, I forget why I have Milcom here. But this, oh, I know why. It's another one of the deities, and we was talking about the Christmas tree. This is where we get our Christmas tree that my kin brother used to call them Christmas celebrations, and I think that probably fits the description of them a little better. Milcom or Milcom was the name of either the national god or a popular god of the Ammonites. He is attested in the Hebrew Bible He is attested in the Hebrew Bible and in archaeological finds from the former territory of Ammon. His connections to other deities with similar names attested in the Bible and archaeology are debated, as well as his relationship to the Canaanite supreme deity El, or the punitive deity Moloch. And I don't like saying that word, but this is where we get this dude's name from. Leviticus 18:21. It says, and you should not let, I'm not going to read no more about Moloch, by the way. It's pretty gross. And you shall not let any of your descendants pass through the fire to Moloch, nor shall you profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. Leviticus 20, verses 1 through 5. Says, then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, again, you shall say to the children of Israel, whoever of the children of Israel or of the strangers who dwell in Israel, who gives any of his descendants to Moloch, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. I will set my face against that man. I will cut him off from his people, because he has given some of his descendants to Moloch to defile my sanctuary and profane my holy name. And if the people of the land should in any way hide their eyes from the man, when he gives some of his descendants to Moloch, and they do not kill him, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and I will cut him off from his people, and all who prostitute themselves with him to commit harlotry with Moloch. Now, I want to say right now, while we're even talking about this, I'm not going to hide the fact that my kin brother has, in a roundabout way, in so many roundabout ways, has started doing this very thing. He's asked me about this particular God many times, and from the things that the way that I have seen him change, I, I cannot say anything different. Honestly, I cannot say any different. This is who he seems to be worshiping. But moving on, that had to get out because it says right there. It says if anybody, let's see, it says, and if the people of the land should in any way hide their eyes from the man when he gives some of his descendants to Moloch, and they do not kill him, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and I will cut him off from his people and all who prostitute themselves with him to commit harlotry. with the M word. That's why I said what I said a moment ago, because I'm not going to hide that fact. 1 Kings 11:4 through 8. It says, "For it was so, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not loyal to the Lord his God, and was the heart, and as was the heart of his father David. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom," remember that word, the abomination of the Ammonites. Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and did not fully follow the Lord, as did his father David. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, on the hill that is east of Jerusalem, and for Moloch, the abomination of the peoples of Ammon. And he did likewise for all his foreign wives who burnt incense and sacrificed to their gods. Now, I want to also say that the Masons, the Freemasons, this is who they follow right here. That's who they follow. They take after, they want to take after Solomon. 2 Kings 23, 12 through 13. Thought about something else and I can't remember the verse now, but I'll think about it in a moment. 2 Kings 23, 12 through 13, it says, "The altars that were on the roof, the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord, the king broke down and pulverized there, and threw their dust into the brook of Kidron. Then the king defiled the high places that were east of Jerusalem, which were on the south of the Mount of Corruption, which Solomon, king of Israel, had built for Ashtaroth, the abomination of the Sidonians, for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom, the abomination of the people of Ammon." So let's see who Milcom is. No, we done seen who Milcom is. The Muzid. This is going to be the last one I cover. I think I think Solomon was talking about uh, the M word. Demuzi or Tammuz. Looks Demuz the shepherd. And let's see, find out where to start reading here. Known to the Sumerians as Demuz the shepherd, and to the Canaanites as Adon, is an ancient Mesopotamian and Levanite deity associated with agriculture and shepherds, who was also the first and primary consort of the goddess Inanna, later known as Ishtar. In Sumerian mythology, Demuz's sister was, can't say that word, the goddess of agriculture, fertility, and dream interpretation. In the Sumerian king list, Demuzid is listed as an antediluvian king of the city Batria, Batribia, and also an early king of the city Uruk. So we read about this when we was looking at Nanu. Uh, look through here a little bit more. He's this deity of all this, the husband of Nanu, which when it comes to the Epic of Gilgamesh, if my memory serves, it seems like Ishtar was the wife of Osiris. Osiris was killed, and then it was Tammuz that she gave birth to afterwards, basically the reincarnation are supposedly the reincarnation um, of Osiris. And let's see, marriage to and that we read about that. It says it's probably going to be about word for word. We read about that though, and I wish I hadn't shown that picture. Main narrative, other versions. I thought there was a in the Bible. Here it is. The cult of Ishtar and Tammuz may have been introduced to the kingdom of Judah during the reign of King Manasseh, and the Old Testament contains numerous allusions to them. Ezekiel 8:14 mentions Tammuz by name. Then he brought me then he brought me to the gate of the Lord's house, which was towards the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these. Ezekiel's testimony is the only direct mention of Tammuz in the Hebrew Bible, but the cult of Tammuz may also be alluded to in Isaiah 7:10 and 11. I thought I pulled that verse up, but I must not have. It says, Because thou hast forgotten the God of thy salvation, and hast not been mindful of the rock of thy strength, therefore shalt thou plant pleasant plants, and shall set it with strange slips. In the day shalt thou make thy plant to grow, and in the morning shalt thou make thy seed to flourish, but the harvest shall be heaped in the day of grief and in desperate sorrow. I do kind of see the correlation there. Let's see. It says this passage may be describing the miniature gardens that women would plant in honor of Tammuz during his festivals. Isaiah 1:29 and through 30, Isaiah 65:3, and Isaiah 66:17. It says, all denounce sacrifices made in the gardens, which may also be connected to the cult of Tammuz. Another possible allusion to Tammuz occurs in Daniel 11:37. Neither shall he regret the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. The subject of his passage is Antiochus. Let's see, the subject of this passage is Antiochus the fourth, whatever that word is, Ep- Epiphanes. Antiochus, however you say it. And some scholars have interpreted the reference to the one desired by women in this passage as an indication that Antiochus may have persecuted the cult, persecuted the cult of Tammuz. There is no external evidence to support this reading, however, and it is much more probable that this epithet, epithet, I don't know why I can't talk, is merely a jibe at Antiochus's notorious cruelty towards all women who fell in love with him. The Hebrew Bible also contains references to Tammuz consort and Nana Ishtar, and we read the Jeremiah passages. Uh, Song of Solomon 6:10. That's one I forgot to put back up. It says, "Who is she that looketh forth as the morning, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, and terrible as an army with banners?" That's what Song of Solomon says. Excuse me, one second. Now that verse in Ezekiel, I wanted to read 13 and 14 actually, and it says, "And he said to me, Turn again, and you will see greater abominations than they are doing. So he brought me to the door of the north gate of the Lord's house, and to my dismay, women were sitting there weeping for Tammuz." Well, that's all the reading I got for tonight, but I want to just point out these deities that, you know, probably something to keep on your mind, something to think about, especially during these what people call holidays. And these aren't the only ones. There's many. There's like the 4th of July, the Thanksgiving, Halloween. There's many, and I didn't write them all down, and I'm not even gonna try to. I don't want them having written. So anyway, let me see if I can do this correctly. Looks like I have. So anyway, well, shoot, I thought I'd been on here a lot longer than 37 minutes, but we'll go say hello to the chat again. Pretty much spoke to everybody. The Gospel of Rant Jams. Hello to you, Atara Hamill. Hey, Atara, recognize who you are. JJ Hemp Creek Bear, Teza. Good to see y'all. I'm going to, if I can figure out how. Now, welcome, Gilead. Share the link in the. Here we go. We'll share the link in the comments if anybody would want to jump on with me and visit with me a few minutes or anything like that. I'm surprised I actually stayed live. All right. So anyway, that's about all I had for this evening. And I didn't share the Discord server in the description, but I couldn't get Discord to work while ago. But what I will do is I will share in the chat if you give me just a moment. But after the stream, if anybody would want to come visit with us on Discord, and you don't have to be on camera or nothing. It's a pretty cool place to hang out and visit, share your testimonies and whatever you'd like to do. And I shared the link in the comments there. If anybody would like to jump on with me, I'm not going to stay on here too terribly long, but I know it takes a few minutes to get good service sometimes and stuff like that. So I give y'all a few minutes to join if you like. Stuff like that. All right. I think I shared the Discord in the server as well. But if if y'all would like, also leave your comments if you want to think this through and maybe read through some more of those Wikipedia posts. Which look, we got to take Wikipedia with a grain of salt. Okay, that's somebody's opinion. They write this stuff, and don't get me wrong, a lot of it is correct. Okay, but some of it's not. We have to be careful with Wikipedia. And I know I only went to Wikipedia. I thought this was going to take a lot longer than what it actually did. So I didn't put a lot of posts up like that. So uh, hopefully y'all enjoyed the stream and maybe enjoyed the message. You know, maybe you've never heard of it before. Maybe you might want to look into it some. And hey, I just shared the link in the Discord. There's a lot more that I've studied into this stuff. A lot more I know about this stuff. If you'd like to discuss it on a like a more personal level or something like that, you know, we don't just tell everybody everybody's business. So anyway, I got myself into a little bit of trouble with somebody the other day, and I think I was taken the wrong way. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up about that when it comes to the Facebook group that I was removed from, hey, I don't mind. I mean, sure, you had a pretty cool group there. I enjoyed it, but I'm going to tell the truth. I'm not gonna try to cover my footsteps. I'm not gonna try to hide things that I know from people just so they might think differently of me or something like that. I'm not gonna bite my tongue. When it comes to the person that I had mentioned, look, it was years ago that I mentioned it to him. I went to him and we had a short discussion, but he didn't want to hear the things that I was talking about either, so he just blocked me too. That's not what you're supposed to do. And the gossip that went on afterwards, after the fact, you never even came to me to even say, "Hey, I disagree with your statement here," or anything like that. You just kicked me out of the group and then went to talking bad about me behind my back. Is that what we're supposed to do, folks? We're not supposed to we're not supposed to gossip behind people's backs, you know. So that wasn't cool what you did. But hey, if the person that I mentioned would like to speak to me today, I'll be happy to. But he blocked me as well, and then threw a rage fit on their next live stream. Apparently, a lot of people were coming to him about it, and he probably had enough of listening to what others had found. Didn't want to hear it. Blocked them. You're not going to learn that way. And as far as calling me a false prophet, sure, I'm a false prophet because I'm not a prophet. I'm a servant of the Most High. I'm not a teacher. I'm a servant of the Most High. I'm just sharing the things that I've learned, the things that I've experienced, and hopefully it might help somebody through their walk in life or whatever they might be experiencing, because I've over the years I've met people that's had dreams and visions much like the same one that I've had, almost identical. So what's to say that we're the only ones with all the truth? We should we should we should set ourselves up to be corrected if need be. We shouldn't be so headstrong and say, "Oh no, it's my way or the highway." Shouldn't do that. We're not all correct on everything. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed the stream. I'm fixed to end it. Much love to everybody. Many blessings. Peace. I hope to see you in the Discord server. And shalom.